Hi folks, and welcome to the introductory module for Section 5, Diving Deeper with DAX, part of PAC's video course, Power BI for Business Professionals. Columns and measures. Now the DAX language can be used in three distinct ways. We can create new columns in our data tables. We can define new measures on those data tables. Measures are nothing more than numbers that are calculated over sets of rows. Sum and average would be very simple examples of measures. We can also use DAX to write queries. In other words, expressions that will return a set of rows and columns. But for most Power BI report writers, it's the creation of new columns and the definition of new measures that are the most important. So we will focus on those tasks in Section 5. We'll start by creating a new column in the products table. Now previously, we saw that we could create a new column by going to the Modeling tab and clicking New Column. But we can also go to the table in the Fields list, in this case the product table, right-click on it and choose New Column. What we would like to do in this simple example is create a label column that includes not just the product name, but also the product subcategory and the product category in one big long string. So we'll call this full product name. And if we just said full product name equals product name, all we would be doing is creating a duplicate of the product name column. Now, in order to include the category and the subcategory names, our column definition has to access other tables in our data set. There is a very important function called related that allows us to move in the many-to-one direction from a data table. In other words, since there are many product names for each one product subcategory, if we go from products to subcategories, we're moving in the many-to-one direction. This function is called related. So if we say related, we could go to product subcategory name, and we can use the ampersand to tack on to the end of that, a slash, and then tack on after that the product name. Notice that in the argument to related, we specify the product subcategory table and the product subcategory name within that table. Now, how does Power BI know how to get information from the product subcategory table and relate it to the product table? Power BI knows this because we have relationships defined in our data set. If we did not have correct relationships defined, we could not use this technique. Well, we can also do exactly the same thing for the category name. We'll call the related function again. This time we'll say product category name. And once again, we'll use the ampersand to concatenate a slash, and we'll use another ampersand to concatenate on the rest of the string. Once we're finished, all we need to do is hit enter. The expression will be evaluated. And now, if we go back to the list of fields in the product table, we see that there's a new field called full product name. If we go to the data tab and then go to the product table, we can scroll out to the end and we can see the new data that was generated by our new column definition. Let me click on reseller sales and we'll create another new column. Now sometimes there's a bit of confusion when should I define a new column and when should I define a measure? Well, if you want to define a new label that's going to end up in rows in your final report, you have to create a new column. If you want to define a new measure, something that is much more sophisticated or complex than sum and average, obviously you have to create a measure. But sometimes you want to put a new numerical calculation in the data table as a new column. When you do this, you have to understand that whatever numerical value you define in the column is going to be aggregated later on. This is very important. So let's create a very simple calculation. We'll call it gross profit, and gross profit will equal the sales amount minus the total cost. When I hit enter, that expression is evaluated, and we can see the new gross profit column, and we can see the new calculations that represent the gross profit for each row in our data table. If we return to our report, we can create a column chart. We can go down to the reseller sales table, and there's our gross profit. If we like, we can look at our gross profit by year. And in fact, this new column behaves like any other column. We could, for instance, add on a filter. We'll grab the slicer, go to geography, and pick region country name. If we click Germany, we notice that the columns readjust to show us the gross profit by year for Germany. If I hold down the Control key, I can add in France. And now I'm looking at the gross profit for both France and Germany. So this particular new column is behaving exactly as we hope. This is not, however, true for all new columns.